Good morning, everyone. I'm Jenny G. Thanks for tuning in to my weekly Cosmic Vibes series. Now, listen up. My podcast is starting back up. You should see interviews and such coming on my channel very soon. Within the next week or two, you're going to start seeing new videos coming. Now, if you have a story that you would like to share with me, and have me interview you, by all means, please send me a message. The best way to send me a message is to go to my new website, soulworkwithjennyg.com. Send me a message. Let me know your story. And you never know, I might just say, hey, let's do an interview on my podcast. So let's talk about this week's energy. What is coming up here? We're in mid-June. 13th to the 19th, we have this super Gemini new moon. Very powerful. We have back-to-back super new moons. Now, whenever we have super new moons, super double the ante in power and energy. So whenever we have energy this high, the frequency and vibrational is high, this is when you take advantage of this situation completely and utterly. I hope the video doesn't start freezing throughout this session. If it does, I'm sorry. The energy is very powerful. So anyways, we have that Gemini super new moon, as we just talked about. This is when you're going to get sudden love surprise messages coming in, soulmates appearing, twin flame, unexpected love connections, new love starting, new relationship starting. Wowzers, right? We're also moving into the pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde, the official doesn't start until the end of the month. However, this is a time to now resolve situations and issues that need to be dealt with now before the retrograde comes, because it can get a little, it can get a little antsy, it can get a little difficult. So we have Venus entering Leo. Your heart's going to start expanding. This is why also love, relationship, unexpected love surprises, it's all coming in as well. Pay attention to these lucky dates in June, the 15th, 16th, 17th, 21st, and the 6th and the 9th, which is past already. So you're going to be going through some more inner child healing during this phase. So whenever certain memories sneak up on us and we're like, oh, I'm getting really teary-eyed, don't run from it. Your soul brings certain traumas, wounds, painful memories to the surface to help you shift through that more. So don't run from it. During whenever we have the Chiron energy and inner wounded healing, as I say, sometimes when I'm out, I'll just wear sunglasses, because a memory or something could just sneak up on you and you're like, oh, I'm just getting really emotional. It takes time to heal. The bigger the pain, the more painful situations are, it takes longer to process, you know. So don't be hard on yourself during this time. Don't, So as we're starting off the week, destined connections coming in, this Gemini new moon, powerful new moon, you're going to start seeing your self-worth more with love, relationships, new beginnings. You're also going to be healing during this as well. So pay attention to your creativity. You could all of a sudden be getting more creative. You're going to feel a lot more confident. Communication is going to open up more. You can get a little bit more flirty. And you're especially going to be seeing things from a different perspective right now. You're going to see a lot more clarity. Communication is going to be coming and going from the heart more. So if you're connecting with people where it's like, I don't feel that authentic vibe. I don't that's not your people. You know, your soul tribe, the people who should be around you are people that support you in a positive way. You know, there's always, you know, people that are going through a lot. And sometimes when people go through a lot, they can get really moody, of course. You know, so don't judge anybody at all. You just don't need to be around certain people if they're not treating you with respect. So if you even look back to last week, you're standing up more for yourself. You know, you're like, I've had enough of this. You can't treat me like this. Who do you think you are? You know, I had to actually like end a couple of friendships myself, or actually business connections, shall I say, last week myself, because it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. So, you know, when we're standing up for ourselves, it could be with any situations, but it's like, no, this isn't how it is. You know, I'm not your servant. I'm not your slave, right? Like, really? So, without going into details, of course, you know what and who, let's say, that you were struggling with. But some people like to, you know, be the power over you. It's their ego. But if you allow that, they're just going to continue walking over you. You allow somebody to treat you like shit, bottom line, they're going to continue to do that. I mean, I don't put up with that myself, you know, but you very well could have been, I'm done. Like one last word you said, that's it. That was the final straw. We all have limitations. So you could even find during this moon time, you could be a little bit emotional, of course. The moon will trigger you. You could be like, I'm ending that. New moons are more powerful than full moons. So this is why even with the super new moon, take advantage of the energy. You know, really pay attention to what you're getting pulled towards, what you're getting drawn to. Always do that. You know, resolve situations now that have been lingering on. Get it done and over with, seriously, before Mercury retrograde comes in. You know, no matter how hard it is, because if you don't, it's going to get like 5 times as hard during Mercury retrograde, right? So it's like, oh my God, get it done, get it done, get it done, dealt with, and everything. So that new moon can work very much with you. Gemini, flirty, you know what I mean? All of that, love relationships. It's just right on target for some of you. You could get proposed to, you could get asked out on a date. Your connection with your person could get stronger. Sudden soulmates, sudden twin flames show up. Anything is possible during this time right now. So, you know, like how great is that? We should be speaking from our heart anyways. So we're moving into the 15th and the 16th. Sudden attraction and chemistry could be off the charts that day. Like, wowzers. You could be like really getting yourself attached to somebody, really drawn towards someone. Why is this happening? You know, pay attention. You know, like whenever our energy starts to change, you attract who you are. You know, we can be like, I've let go and released this, and that. So you can attract different people towards you for many, many, many different reasons. You know, pay attention to where you're at right now in life. You know, like I surround myself with a lot more positive people myself, because who you surround yourself with, you become. You hang out with toxic people, negative energies, that's where your energy is going to stay. So yeah, we work with certain people, of course, that we have to work with, but you don't have to hang out with them personally, I'm just saying, but don't let people walk over you. So just really pay attention right now, especially to who you're meeting. New people, especially. Why does that person come into my life? Again, law of attraction. What have you been changing? What have you been wanting to change in your life? You know, if I'm looking to expand in certain areas, I'll be like, okay, I need help, let's say, with starting this or working through this. You can attract different people to help you. You know, if you're looking for certain relationships, why am I always attracting this type of person, let's say? You have to sit back and ask yourself honestly, what qualities are you looking for in a relationship, in a partner? Are you looking for something short term? Are you looking for casual? Are you looking for friends with benefits? Are you looking for a long-term relationship with marriage? Be really honest with yourself. If you're attracting the same type of toxic traits, it's nothing's going to change, let's say. So it's important to just really pay attention to the journey you're on. So you're going to want to be with more heart to heart connections, as I mentioned, soul connections. You're really going to be feeling the energy and vibe with someone, if they're being real or not. A lot of people are just walking away from just certain people. They're like, wow, I've seen the truth actually. Like, there's been a lot of talk behind the scenes, as I call it. Wow, you're saying all of these certain things about someone, and I connected with that person. I don't know what you're talking about. That's their journey. Some people like to overextend because they want to be higher in power. So they have a tendency to shut other people down. I don't go near that. When I had my television show, I would have people on and interview them and support them in their business, help them get themselves out there in a positive way. We should be supporting each other in a positive way. So you're gonna start doing a lot more reflecting on that as well. You very well could see more synchronicity happening right now into your dreams. Pay attention to, where do I want to be next year at this time? You could be placed more in this year and expand even more next year. Like 2025 is really when it started. 2026 is when we're like clearing things out to get us towards boom. I'm being there in 2027. So you're getting everything set up this year so you can make that move in 2027. Whatever it is, that direction you want to move towards. So, it's like, yeah, I'm clearing out this, I'm getting rid of this, all of these things, revamping my entire self, whatever it is. So don't go sharing a lot of details of what you're doing. I get people saying, so what are you doing? I don't say much. I learned that lesson a long time ago. So it's in, certain people you can say, well, I'm doing this and this and that. If you have certain people around you that just shut you down, why are you doing that? And all of a sudden that negativity starts. I don't want that in my life. I live my life how I choose to live my life. So, once I do something that's accomplished, there you go, guys. You can check it out if you want, just certain things, handle things how you want, but just really pay attention, because I've seen people where they have dreams and they talk to other people, and other people have put the fear of God into them and the negativity to the point where they're like, they stop working on their project. They stop their dreams because of the negative energies around them. So be really mindful about this right now. You know, be really, really mindful of seeing the truth about people around you, for goodness sakes. So there's a lot of deceit. There's a lot of things going on. Twin flames, it can be very karmic too, by the way. Karmic relationships. There's karmic relationships that have been clearing itself out, which brings sudden endings. Endings if you pay attention to toxic traits. If not, it's just going to continue on. You could have that little honeymoon phase, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, I can't believe my person's cheating on me again, or like whatever it is. There's no change. That's why certain things are being shown to you and have been shown to you for quite some time. So on the 17th and 18th, you're going to find your intuition is going to be a lot more stronger. You're really going to see even more what is just not working. We get those days where we get those sudden, wow, light bulb goes off. You're going to be reflecting a lot. You're going to be seeing that truth, coming to terms with things. You're going to be like, wow, maybe you ended a relationship, or maybe you started a relationship during this love week. And you're like, now I can see why my relationship didn't work with that person that I wanted to be with, because now the right person is coming in. When you let go of the wrong people, the right people come in. So you could be seeing the reality now versus the illusion and fantasy of what you wanted before. Wow, did I ever see that other person's side, who they are? I'm so grateful. Yeah. When you get redirected, you know, I've always said that's the universal's way to redirect you away from danger, away from protecting you, and bring you more in alignment with your soul's purpose. The universe is not out there to hurt you. The universe is there to help you. And sometimes, oh my God, that's what I thought I wanted. That's what I wanted. The universe took it away. Maybe that was a really good thing. You don't know what could have happened. Maybe, you know, so we have to trust the process, still working towards your dreams 100%. Yes, keep moving towards your goals. But when there's roadblocks, take that pause and say, okay, maybe there's a reason that happened. Of course there is. You know, you can always book a reading with me. I can give you clarity and insights into everything in a lot of details. So you could even find that this time right now, you've really transcended in quantum leaps forward. You're not the same person anymore. You know, we evolve, we change, you know, our experiences shape us into who we are. You know, our experiences, especially when we go through painful situations, we can really transform either way. So some people are like, I'm taking my power back now. I'm making big changes in my life with all different areas. Help my dreams come true. Do what it takes. If you want to see changes, you have to make change happen. You do. You know, there's one person who I talk to who's I've known for many years, and I actually talk to him about everything because he doesn't judge. You know, he gets it. There's certain people I have to hold back with telling what I'm doing and certain things because I know they're just that negative energy is going to come out of them. So you're going to see that more and you're going to be pondering more on that. So even as we end towards the week, that Chiron energy healing, that wounded healer, you could be more in tears, letting go, releasing more memories. Maybe you ended a relationship. Maybe you start seeing now, wow, I'm so grateful with how things happen. You're going to see your worth even more. When that Taurus energy is coming in, as Chiron enters Taurus, you're going to be healing from financial stability. You're going to be healing from self-worth and abundance and security. You're going to be especially healing more of those wounds. Maybe now your job is more secure, or you're feeling more secure with your self-worth because you've started standing up for yourself. So when energies move into certain signs, you know, it just kind of shows you what you're working more towards and you're working through. So you could be feeling, wow, I'm so glad that this happened now. I'm actually feeling a little bit more grounded and secure. You know, I've turned this person down, or I've ended my relationship. I know my worth. You know, I stood up for myself to my job or my family or my friend or my person or whoever it is. I've had enough. Like, believe me, it was I did that. I went right for the throat. Look, this is it. You know, if that's how it's going to be, I'm done. I know my worth. It's just not going to work. And that was it. That was it. Had enough. So, you know, we go through these stages where enough is enough. So when you take your power back, you're healing even more. And as you start healing, your power starts coming back because you're like, no, I'm done. I can't be around that. I know who I am. I know my worth. I know where my heart is. I know where my intentions are. That's all that matters. Be authentic, be yourself, be honest. Why be somebody or not? It's gonna backfire on you. So this is a really powerful week, you know, like we're seeing more of the government being confronted. You know, I've talked about that even in my predictions video that I set for this entire year. I've been talking about that for quite some time. You know, a lot more government so-called leaders are being confronted. You know, look at even our prime minister here of Canada. Oh my God, don't even get me going on that. Oh my God, you know, a lot more countries are going to be standing up for other countries that they wouldn't even get involved with because they're like, are you seriously kidding me? Yes. Enough. Enough. A lot of grossness gets exposed. Truth comes up, karma comes out. I don't care who it is on the planet. It makes no difference. The more power as somebody has, they can buy people to shut them up and stuff. That's what's been going on for years. However, things are starting to change. So, let's just pull a couple of cards, see what's going on. We're going to talk to the romance cards because this week, what's coming up? Unexpected love confessions, love surprises, love messages coming in. It's like last week in a way, but this week is when things could really start heating up, you know? I'm going to ask my person out. I'm going to speak up more. I'm going to tell my person how I feel, or that person, or whoever. Past people start, coming up. You very well also could be having more dreams. Pay attention to that. More love dreams, more people that from the past that you're like, maybe I should reach out to them. Maybe I should apologize, or maybe I should forgive them, or there's some unresolved issues with that person, or maybe there is a really big misunderstanding. Maybe it's the time now where, I can apologize or forgive, or let's reconnect, or, all of that kind of stuff, all of that kind of stuff. So your mind could be, even more so coming like that. So pay attention. All of a sudden, somebody from your past, comes into your mind, and especially your dreams. I actually had a dream a few days ago of three people from my past who I ended my friendship with. They boom came up to the surface in my mind with McTavish, of course, my wolfhound. I still have dreams with him. The messages were super powerful, and I'm like, their messages are all different, and it just confirms a lot of different things as well. Or if you're like, wow, maybe I shouldn't have said that, it's just telling you maybe you should reconnect or resolve things with them, or like, anything. So just pay attention to that. We get these signs from the universe. So let's pull a couple of cards from the 13th to the 19th. What's going on? What's coming up? This could be the one. Oh, how interesting. You've already met the romantic partner you seek. Oh my God. How many of you do feel honestly, authentically, that you have met your person? Or maybe that person who you're like, I just have this feeling they're my person. And all of a sudden this week, you get a message from them, or they confess, you know what, I really like you. Right? So these things very well could be coming up this week. Sometimes we can meet someone or have someone around us, and that could be your person. That saying could be like, I didn't realize that my person was standing in front of me for all this time. Divine timing. Things come together at the right divine timing. You have to trust that. If it doesn't feel right, don't go with it. If you're like, there could be potential here, don't rush it. Some people like to rush. Some people are okay with that. That's what somebody wants. Some people are not. So I don't recommend pushing anything. I really don't. Go with the flow. But don't start a new relationship during Mercury retrograde, because there's so many issues during Mercury retrograde. So if this is a perfect week, yeah, you could start a new relationship now, of course. So the 13th to the 19th of June, what's coming up? What's the message from the universe for you? So not everyone's going to connect with the cards. If you do want to book a reading with me, make sure you go to my website, soulworkwithjennyg.com. It's a new, website that had come out. My old one's gone. My old one went down in March, end of March. My new one went up beginning or end of March. So what a nice card, actually. This is rebuilding. And it's so interesting because this woman is holding her heart. Look, rebuilding your life, rebuilding yourself, rebuilding your foundation, rebuild your vision board. Like I have a vision board. Some people say, oh, they don't work. That's complete and utterly bullshit. You know what I mean? So, um, start writing down, of course, what you want to do, what you want to create. You know, we can manifest lots of different things. Things come together at the right timing, of course. Sometimes we can put certain dates on things when we want to see certain things. You know, I've talked about it for quite some time. What you started in May, you're going to see those results coming mid-October. So go back even and watch my other videos because sometimes I start channeling and I get messages coming in for, you know, for other times. But look how she's like holding her heart. Do things from your heart. Do things that feel right from your heart. Make decisions from your heart. Yes, sometimes we have to think with our head, of course, when we're making the decision, but where's your heart pulling you towards? You know, sometimes we have to go through and stay in a toxic relationship until we're done. We're like, I'm done with that now. You know, don't judge anybody. We all have our own path. So let's have a chat with the animal kingdom. I'm also an animal communicator. Talk with your animals who have passed on and also your animals who are very much still with you. I get messages like nonstop, like nonstop. I actually went to a Cavalier meetup with Valentino. I belong to a Cavalier group, and we all met up with all of our Cavaliers. It's so cute. And I was actually communicating with a lot of the Cavaliers. Of course, I say nothing to anybody. You know, there's somebody I would have really have liked to said something to, but I'm not. I'm not going to overstep my boundaries. But you know. But anyways, so much fun. You can actually check out Valentino's account, my Cavalier, on Valentino 2026 on Instagram. He's all over there. You know, I just love him so much. So, oh my goodness. Okay, so wow, I love this. I love this. The raven fell out. I have so many stories about ravens I've connected with, preparing for change. Archangels Azrael and Bacopi. I probably pronounced that wrong. Raven, look at that. Ravens are very magical and mystical. You know, many years ago, many moons ago, I actually started, I was going through a lot of a health crises, a health situation many years ago. And it was the ravens that flew over and came to me and told me what was going on. And I'm like, oh my God, that made perfect sense. So I immediately went and booked acupuncture. Needless to say, long story short, that was my first time, brought me into the natural healing modalities, and it cured me. You know, I went back to my doctor like a month later and he goes, oh my God, we're gonna have to, because he had told me you need surgery, you're gonna have to have a hysterectomy. And I'm like, hell I am. So if it wasn't for the ravens and what message they told me and why this was happening, I'm so forever grateful. So I do take animal communication very sacred. It's one of my sacred gifts. So I love ravens. I really do. You know, they're so magical. So actually, I'm getting pulled towards this deck, people. So I am putting classes together. That's going to take a little time. I've got a lot of other things that I'm dealing with, of course. My podcast is starting back up here and one step at a time. So go to my website. You can check out the classes section. June 13th and 19th. Wizard of Awareness card fell out, like wizard magic. Look at that, like the Merlin energy of awareness. Really, you see how he's like sitting back there thinking. He's observing, like I'm an observer myself. He's observing. Hmm. Very much in his awareness. What do I want? What changes do I need to make? Where do I want to go? You know, I observe a lot and I don't say much. You know, I get insights coming. I'm a clairvoyant medium, psychic medium, so I get messages 24/7. So I see a lot, but I don't share a lot, you know, for many reasons. I see a lot and I don't share a lot, depending unless I start channeling. It's a one-on-one session with you and I. Yes, of course, I give you my messages. But because the video is starting to freeze, the video's freezing up, so I'm going to end it now. And make sure you guys subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram, Jenny G Cousins. Pay attention here because the first podcast is going to be coming out real soon. Namaste.